After Jerusalem erupts, deadly strikes and clashes spread across Israel and the Palestinian territories. Jerusalem, a day of upheaval at the holy sites of this contested city, quickly widened into a night of warlike violence in communities across the country Tuesday, with hundreds of rockets from the Gaza Strip resulting in the deaths of at least 2 Israelis and retaliatory airstrikes killing at least 26 Gazans, according to Palestinian officials and Israeli media. Clashes also broke out in the West Bank between Palestinians and Israeli soldiers, as well as between Jewish residents, Israeli police and Arab citizens in Arab Israeli towns and mixed Jewish Arab towns, leading to hundreds of arrests and at least one Palestinian fatality. The armed exchanges, the worst eruption of violence between Israel and Palestinians in recent years, continued into a second day as security officials braced for fighting to escalate even further. Schools in several parts of Israel were closed Tuesday. Air raid sirens sounded every few minutes in towns where many Israelis had already passed the night in bomb shelters. On Tuesday afternoon, more than 200 rockets struck southern Israel within the span of an hour, including in the Israeli coastal city of Ashkelon just north of Gaza, according to media reports. Air raid sirens sounded every few minutes in towns where many Israelis had already passed the night in bomb shelters. On Tuesday afternoon, more than 200 rockets struck southern Israel within the span of an hour, including in the Israeli coastal city of Ashkelon just north of Gaza, according to media reports. We fired rockets at Ashkelon following an Israeli attack and an attack on a house west of Gaza City, said a spokesman for Hamas's military wing. If Israel continues to attack, we will turn Ashkelon into hell. At around midday Tuesday, at least 2 residents of Ashkelon were killed when a rocket struck their apartment building. At least 3 Israelis were hospitalized earlier after rockets hit a school and residential buildings in Ashkelon and Ashdod. Officials told residents to clear the streets and remain in shelters. Military officials said more than 500 rockets had been launched from Gaza since the start of the flare-up, although a large percentage of them failed to cross into Israel and exploded, landing inside the enclave itself. The Army's expansive anti-missile defense network, known as Iron Dome, destroyed more than 90% of the rockets that reached Israeli airspace, the Army said. In response to the launches, the Israel Defense Forces carried out sustained retaliatory strikes inside the Gaza Strip overnight and into the morning, with warplanes conducting more than 140 attacks. The IDF said it killed at least 15 Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad fighters in strikes that targeted rocket manufacturing and storage sites, training and military complexes, 2 underground tunnel. Islamic Jihad, one of the main Palestinian armed groups in Gaza, said Tuesday that 2 of its commanders were killed in Israeli airstrikes. One, Sami Fahim Hashim al-Mamluk, 34, was commander of its missile unit in northern Gaza, the group said. The IDF said it was specifically targeting military leaders and that it expected to kill more of them. Images from the Shati refugee camp near Gaza City on Tuesday morning showed scenes of destruction following at least one Israeli airstrike that appeared to target the top floor of a nearby residential building. The building's concrete rooftop collapsed onto the apartment below, where residents were shown picking through the rubble. Palestinian news agencies reported that 2 people were killed in a strike in the Shati camp. In separate images, children in the camp's cramped quarters near the sea sifted through the debris of a strike that also damaged their home. Palestinian health officials said 9 children were among the dead in Gaza. Video on social media showed grieving families amid the rubble of damaged buildings. An Israeli military spokesman said the army would conduct an investigation into reports of children killed. He blamed Hamas, the Islamist militant group that governs Gaza, for embedding weapons and launch sites in civilian areas. "We go to great lengths to strike only military targets," said Army spokesman Jonathan Conricus. "They are in houses, courtyards, near schools and mosques." In a statement, Palestinian Health Ministry spokesman Ashraf al-Qidr said the Israeli strikes were increasing pressure on Gaza's already struggling healthcare system, which has been trying to combat a surge in coronavirus cases there. He said that Israeli strikes in the vicinity of a coronavirus quarantine center in Rafah in southern Gaza earlier Tuesday had a direct impact on the ministry's ability to provide services to individuals housed at the facility. It was unclear if the center was damaged or if anyone was injured in the strikes. World leaders beseeched both sides to rein in their forces and avoid a further escalation. But there were few signs Tuesday that the conflict would ease quickly. Hamas pledged to maintain rocket launches in retaliation for recent Israeli police incursions into Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque, considered Islam's third holiest site and a frequent flashpoint in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On Tuesday morning, the Israeli military called up 8 reserve border police battalions and received government approval to call up another 5,000 reservists from various units. It also deployed artillery batteries in the towns near the Gaza Strip and said it was boosting its anti-rocket systems around Gaza. The Israeli army has its foot on the gas, and attacks on the Gaza Strip are likely to intensify in the coming days, said IDF spokesman Hidai Zilberman. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened an emergency security meeting Tuesday with Defense Minister Benny Gantz, IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi, Shin Bet Chief Nadav Argaman, National Security Council Chief Meir Ben Shabbat and other senior officials in Tel Aviv. The Monday night fighting erupted after days of clashes in Jerusalem, where tensions have been mounting over the pending eviction of several Arab families from the city's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. Near-daily protests in the neighborhood have built up as Israel's High Court prepares to rule on a decades-long property dispute that could result in the families losing their houses to a group of Jewish Israelis. Neighboring countries, reportedly including Egypt and Qatar, worked behind the scenes to ease the tensions. But protests were reported in Arab nations around the region as Muslims rallied around calls to defend Al-Aqsa in East Jerusalem from Israeli aggression. In the mixed Jewish-Arab-Israeli city of Lod, mostly young Arab protesters threw stones and fireworks at passers-by and police and torched cars, trees and a military prep school that contained a synagogue. Jewish students grabbed Torah scrolls as they evacuated the building. Musa Hassan, a 25-year-old resident of the city, was shot to death after a man whose identity is still unknown opened fire on a group of mostly young Arab protesters who were carrying Palestinian flags. 4 other Arab protesters were injured. A Jewish man and another unidentified man who are suspected of involvement in the shooting were taken into police custody. Hundreds of Arab protesters who had accompanied wounded colleagues to Asaf Arafat Hospital in central Israel threw stones, vandalized equipment and intimidated both Jewish and Arab medical staff. The staff moved the injured patients to different parts of the hospital while Israeli police fired stun grenades to disperse the crowds.